years old. I was very lonely, very resentful about my situation with my family. Yes, at that young you can be resentful. And I grew up in a family that was very indifferent. There was a mother who, she did everything that the father said. The father had a military background, and I had a 2-year older brother who was very ill, and I didn't know this. None of us did, but I'll get to that point. Anywho, for me to be able to cope with the life situations that I was going through as a child, I developed this amazing, wonderful imaginary horse. And of course, at that time of what do you call it? At that time of that year, sorry, I'm a little nervous, but there was, of course, Black Beauty on television, so I had this beautiful, amazing, soft, affectionate horse called Black Beauty. And I went everywhere with my horse. My horse was my life. It was my escape to get away from the abuse, from the neglect, from all the worries at home. And Black Beauty and I would just ride off into the sunset, and we would have our lunches together, and she'd gallop along, and I'd take her out of the stable, and I'd brush her mane, and she was everything to me. And unfortunately, growing up is a really tough thing, and one day in school, elementary school, public school, these young boys decided, hey, let's pull a prank on a little kid. And that little kid was me. And the little kid had these young boys pour this green crap all over my head. I may swear, I apologize ahead. But they poured this crap all over my head, and lo and behold, I just ran. I ran for my life. I didn't know what was happening to me. I was terrified. I got home, I went to my mom, my mom washed me up, but there was no hugs, there was no kisses, there was no, we're gonna be okay. So, it was traumatic, and it was so traumatic that I lost Black Beauty. She was gone. She went out of my imagination. I don't know where she went. She was gone. Now this horse meant everything to me. I don't know, so I had to cope another way. And as I was growing up, I discovered I loved animals more than just in my imagination. I adopted stray animals off the street. And these stray animals always kept me happy. I would feed them, I would pet them, they were my companions. I was terrible for making friends. I had no friends, and I didn't want to be involved with people because of the cruelty that was done with me. And it had left me in this dark place that I didn't know how to get out of. So I went to animals next and got comfort from them. So my little doggy, who I adopted first, I kept him outside and I played with him. And then not only was bullying, I'm so against people harming people, they bullied my dog. Like, they took my dog and they painted him, and I was like traumatized all over again because here I'm a little girl with my favorite pet that I had as my companion to keep me happy was, tormented by these kids. So I kind of went, now what do I do? So I met a cat. Like, these animals came in and out of my life. I couldn't keep them at home. Again, the family situation was my brother got everything, I got nothing. And I was kind of getting used to it, but all this going in and out of my life, it felt like I was always alone. So, and my imagination then carried me away from animals and into reality for a little while, which was a very dark place to be for me. I am a sexual abuse survivor from incest. Generations of incest in my family, and it's not an easy topic to talk about, but my imagination also helped me there, and there was the person who I finally opened up to after being this hidden secret for so long, since I couldn't tell my parents. I was supposed to be seen and not heard, of course, the generation that comes out of that. And so I started this imaginary dream of a wonderful man, like the man who's going to save me from this pit I was in with my family. And he came along. I know I would daydream about meeting this man, and he was wonderful, and he was kind, and he was strong, and he was handsome. And so I had this lovely, lovely imaginary man, and I'd hug him at night, close to my pillow, and you know, when it was interrupted by my brother at night, and I couldn't face it, as soon as that was done and over with, I went back to my imaginary world. And so eventually, your imagination is so strong and helps you overcome so many things that this man materialized. And one day I told him, and he grabbed my brother by the scruff of his shirt and he put him up against the wall and he said, "Don't you ever fucking touch her again or I'll kill you." So my imagination man became reality. I married him, had 3 beautiful children with him, and the marriage, of course, fell apart because we both suffered from terrible, terrible PTSD and anxiety and depression. His and mine were a recipe for catastrophe, and that's exactly what happened. I had to leave my 3 beautiful children in a South American country, and I came back alone. I nearly died, but again, the imagination saved me. I started imagining what it would be like to be happy. And that imagination took me on this huge, long, beautiful journey of in and out of anxiety and depression and fear, and it was incredibly scary. But the dreams I had of knowing who I really was came to bloom so dramatically one year when I finally got the courage to take responsibility for my life, let go of my fear, and live with consequences. Because there's so many consequences when you have all this darkness. And I had to crawl myself out, and I went to therapy, and a beautiful thing happened. My therapist, as I went through all these terrible memories, some of the good memories came back, and Black Beauty came back. I remembered her, and I was so thrilled. I told my therapist, I said, "Oh my God," and I was crying, and I thought, "Oh my God, what my imagination had done for me to cope through those dark days, and cope through the pain, and all the fear of being alone." And so rediscovering Black Beauty, I discovered me, and I discovered strength, and I discovered courage, and I discovered that I was never going to shut up again, that I would always have a voice. And I started meeting wonderful people. And as I closed the doors on the past, and I let go of trying to fix make a beautiful future, I focused on the present. And the present was all I had, and I kept thinking, you know what, if I can make another wonderful life with my imagination, I'm going to do it. So I started I followed The Secret, and I started putting half my closet empty. And I did a table for 2 for somebody to sit across from me. And I envisioned, I slept on one side of the bed for months on end. And that other side was bare for my next person. And that next person is in my life now. And he is an incredible human being. And I love him to death. And I can't tell you how important it is to be present in the moment, to witness those miracles that are there underneath all that trauma. If it wasn't for Black Beauty, if it wasn't for her being that strength, that inner passion that was there, running wild, that's what that horse represented to me. It was the story of a little girl who was so traumatized by so little attention that she put her attention on herself, even though she didn't know it at the time. And I always put my attention on love, kindness, and compassion. And I spread my word everywhere I go because there's such a lack of it today. And that's my goal, is to put smiles on people's faces. Thank you.